right, today we had a student request on finding your own personal style art. So in order to understand that, we have to learn a lot about the different styles that are out in the world today.
Today we're going to be talking about a limited guide to finding your personal art style. So why is it a limited guide? And because this presentation is only going to cover a limited number of potential styles. And everyone's style is unique. And because everyone is unique, there are countless styles that could become the next big thing in the art world. So what is art exactly? Art by definition is the quality, production, or expression of what is beautiful, appealing, or of more than ordinary significance. A work of art equals a visual expression of an idea. And the medium they use, or the particular material that is along with it, with an accompanying technique. By the way, the plural of medium is media. So blue water lilies, Monet, beautiful art, but so is this Egyptian wall painting too. In fact, technique can be a big part of an artwork, like with Vincent van Gogh's Starry Night, where he applied the paint so thickly to it, it creates its own shadows within this shadowy artwork. Popular media includes paint, like acrylic, enamel, gesso, glaze, ink, oil, tempera, watercolor. I happened to choose Andrew Wyeth's watercolor for this one. A nice beach scene, something we can relate to. For drawing media, I have a pencil by Adana Carey, and definitely very detailed and pretty amazing, I think. And then for sculpture materials, I have the stone sculptures of Easter Island. Purposes and functions of art include communicating information. So in many non-literate societies, art was used for teaching. But today, photography, film, television are used for disseminating information and opinions as well. Stonehenge certainly fulfills that first part of a non-literate society. Art was used for teaching, as well as showing their spiritual sustenance, because all of the world's major religions have used art to inspire and instruct faith. Purposes and functions of art can be personal and a cultural expression. So this is The Night Watch by Rembrandt, and it was painted during a time where the middle class was coming into its own. And a lot of the middle class in the Dutch regions of Europe were merchants, and they traveled around delivering goods from one country to the other. So this happens to be a ship crew and also the people who own the ship. And they wanted it for posterity, like to hang in the office and say, hey, look at all these people I employ. We're a prosperous company. Come to us if you're looking for safe transport of your goods. Purposes and functions of art can also be a social commentary. So social and political purposes, artists have criticized or influenced values or public opinion. Often it's clear and direct, and other times it can be less obvious. So when this painting went up for sale at Sotheby's auction house in 2018, it had a girl holding a heart balloon. And as soon as the hammer went down and the painting was sold for $1.4 million, it just so happened that the frame had a shredder installed into it. So the painting slid through the shredder and the painting was shredded. A lot of people were horrified, but Banksy's opinion is that art should be accessible for anyone and everyone, not just the rich who can afford it. And so as soon as this painting was sold, he saw his painting turn into shreds. Now, contrary to that, it is supposed that this painting is now worth a lot more because of the whole Banksy stunt with the shredder, and the owner is saying that he's keeping his shredded painting. I can't blame him. All right, so for another one for purposes and functions, we have here a plan for the gardens of the palace in France, in Versailles, France. And this landscape artist is saying, hey, look here, King, I'm going to do this whole thing here. It's going to show off how wealthy and powerful you are. And is there anything personal? Yes, I want more fountains. Sure, I'll put more fountains in if that's what you love. And so again, it has that dual purpose in it. Now for two basic styles or forms of art, there's representational and then there is abstract. So representational is where you take something that's real and you try to make an artwork where it's recognizably like the subject you're doing it of. I have chosen a Cézanne still life here. And then the abstract one is probably something we've never seen before. So this one is a Kandinsky in Composition 8. For representational styles, I have realism, naturalism, and illusionism. So what are those three? So the realism, I've chosen Chuck Close, and he makes these really large paintings. A lot of the time it's as tall as your wall is in your home, and they are super realistic. So you can even see the pores in his skin, the hairs in his nose, etc. Now, today he doesn't do quite like that because he had an accident. But that is his original style, and that is definitely very realistic. And then for naturalism, it is similar to realism, whereas realism, the attempt to depict objects accurately and objectively, naturalism implies usually a grim subject. So the painting may still look beautiful, but maybe it's of a daily life thing that we don't find so appealing. In this case, field workers work in the field. For illusionism, that seeks to create a convincing representation or illusion of reality. So it's probably something we've never seen before, but if the artist has enough skill, he can make it look like it could possibly exist somewhere. And that's what M.C. Escher has done in this artwork. With abstract styles, we have non-representational. This is Louise Nevelson's Black Wall. And again, it has those elements that we don't recognize a lot of the things in it. It could just be, again, form, shape, color, or lack thereof in this. And then we have expressionism. I've chosen Edvard Munch for this in the screen. And that's supposed to elicit and play around with an artist's own ideas, feelings, or the viewer's ideas and feelings. Maybe you feel nervous looking at the nervous person in the picture, or frightened, or any number of things. The colors, the way the lines are kind of drawn to the person add to that sense of, panic and claustrophobia, and who are these two figures behind them, maybe even paranoia in this one painting. All right, so for formal analysis of paintings, because that's what I would say probably most of the time you're going to come across in the art world, we're going to be looking at works of art to try to understand what the artist wants to convey visually. And that can be done through line and shape, color, texture, space, and mass, composition, and scale. Our first one that we're going to look at is Pablo Picasso, and I've chosen him for line and shape because, well, he does that amazingly well with his Cubist style. Now I've chosen a color field artist, Mark Rothko. These are usually also very large paintings. You're encouraged to get close to them because supposedly the colors in the artwork influenced your feelings. If you're standing in front of a red, orange, and yellow artwork, you might feel more energy or more agitation or maybe even anger. And if you're sitting in front of a painting that's blues and greens and grays and purples, you may feel more calm and relaxed or even eventually depressed. For texture, I've chosen Albrecht Dürer's The Rhino, and he certainly has a lot of implied textures in here with all his circles and dots and patterns. It's rumored that he himself never saw an actual rhino in real life, but his friend had a journal who made some quick sketches and wrote about it, and then he used those sketches and made his own artwork from it. It was pretty amazing, and also explains why some of the armor on the rhino doesn't look exactly real. For space and mass, I'm using Wayne Thiebaud because whether he's doing a painting or even something that could be 3D, it certainly seems like his art takes up space and that there's definitely form and mass in them. And then for composition, I've chosen Mondrian, and he is just a master at balancing things in this artwork of line, color, shape, and allows your eye to kind of move around in the painting and see different areas of interest. All right, so I know this next one is not a painting. It's got paint on it though. It's a stamp that is a sculpture that's outside of a justice department in a big city, and I really love how big this is. It's almost as big as the building itself. You can walk underneath it if you want to, or in between it, I should say. And I love the whole idea of it. It says free on it, and that could be that the Justice Department is guaranteeing our freedoms, or it could be that you're found innocent and set free after a court date. But it is definitely showing a lot of scale in this picture. For style, it could also be cultural, period, region, group, or person. Style equals form and composition. So with this first one here, societies can develop their own beliefs and style of material forms, including clothing, buildings, and art. Artists are a product of their culture. So here is a standing Vishnu from India. Styles can change over time. Art changes because of economic and political changes, new technology, religious insight. Sometimes a desire for something new comes along. And in this Renaissance artist, they were striving for a new realistic way of making art, and they learned the powers of perspective. And they have horizon lines, they have vanishing points, they can line up buildings and the sizes of people with it now. And so with this new attitude of science and how it can better people, they've applied it to art as well. The Hudson River School of Art, they were actually a school that was set up around the Hudson River, and they would go outside and paint what they saw. So I like to also call this particular style the Bob Ross style, because you can imagine it looks a lot like a Bob Ross painting. But these people were from a region and they painted what they saw. For group style, the Impressionists were the kings of that style. So sometimes artists will form alliances and exhibit together and publicize their aims as a group to promote a distinct style. And one of the best known group styles is Impressionism. Here the artists were trying to capture a moment, an impression, and put it down quickly on paint. And what about your personal style? There are all sorts of different styles out there, and it's really going to be up to you to figure out which one you like and feels good for you. For me, when I look at art, I know that there are cameras that can do a great job with photography, capturing it so it looks super realistic. I want to see if I can capture something that's somewhat realistic, but maybe improve upon it, make it more colorful, make it prettier. I've put flowers where there's a road. I put a flower bush where there was a car in the photograph of this that I took from Seaside. a number of years ago. And you can see how I've maybe made the color more intensified. Maybe I've put a chair on the porch that wasn't there to make it look more inviting. I've boosted the color in front of the house with the foliage. So there's a lot to think about. And for your personal style, you need to think about what you want to say and what you want the world to see. And whatever style you decide to do by experimenting, make it your own.
Oh, I hope you can find your own personal style. A lot of the times it's what you're interested in. A lot of the time it's what you discover you're good at. And that's why in elementary school I try to have you do a lot of different things, because you never know what thing might be your next new thing. And it might be the thing that you absolutely love and are spectacular at. Fortunately, there are so many different things to learn and styles to learn about in art. All right, for today's super silly joke of the day, it's an art one. So a man was really, really desperate, looking for someone to love and maybe marry, and he asked his friend to set him up on a blind date. So he went on the blind date with his friend's suggestion, and after the date was over, he met up back with his friend again, and he said, well, what kind of person did you set me up with? She had a crooked nose, and it seemed like she would cry at a drop of a hat, and she had an ear growing out of a cheek, and she had hair in the wrong place of her head. And his friend said, well, either you like Picasso or you don't. He does crazy people faces like that. Okay, well, I hope you continue to be kind, love on one another, give your parents a hug, and keep on making great art. Right, Shishi? Yeah.